Hello, today on my channel you will hear an amazing story about life. I hope you enjoy this story. This one struck me to the core. Honestly, I still can't forget it. Enjoy watching.
John, how long can we wait for you? Let's go on the slide. I'm here for my friend Alex. The boys were 7 years old. They met 6 months ago in the summer when both families moved into the house. From that moment on, the boys had always been together, straight up, inseparable. Now wait, I'll just put on my boots, the boy answered, and ran out into the street. They were running, fooling around. They had a cloudless childhood. The guys did not dream of anything. They did not even imagine how their future life would turn out. Look, girls, Alex pointed at those who had just come out of the entrance. Making snowballs, John whispered quietly to him. They hid behind a snowdrift, making an ambush for the girls, and only they came closer. Fly! Shouted one of the boys, and they started pelting the girlfriends with snow. What are you doing? They dodged. One of the girls cried. A snowball hit her in the face. She turned around and ran home. Not a few minutes later, a man came outside. Apparently, it was the victim's father. Come here, you tomboys, come here, he threateningly went at his friends. And we are what? We are not what? John looked naively at the evil man. I'll show you how to hurt girls. He grabbed both hooligans by the ears and dragged them to the entrance. First, he turned one into his parents, and then the other. How are you behaving? His mother asked Alex at home. She brought up the boy alone and did not understand what she should do in such situations. She was afraid to punish him because he might get angry, and without it he would not understand that it is not allowed to do so. And what did we do? We were joking. The guy really didn't understand what they had done. You can't hurt girls, the woman threatened him with her finger. Who hurt them? We need them. Alex shrugged his shoulders and went to his room. John was not brought up by lectures. He was just put in a corner and promised to be given a belt if he didn't obey. Be thankful I don't have time for this, his father shouted at him. Yeah, right, urgent matters. The boy stood facing the wall and poked at it. His father had friends waiting for him in the kitchen, and they were already starting to call for him. John only had him as a dad, so no one really had any ceremony with him. His mother had died a couple years ago, and ever since then the boy had stood in the corner and gotten a belt from his father, even if he hadn't done anything wrong. His mom didn't talk to Alex. She thought that was her way of punishing him, and he realized that it was easy to earn her forgiveness. Mommy, I'm sorry. He sat down and hugged her. Okay, but don't do it again. She hugged and kissed her son. After that, the boy went to bed. He didn't feel any guilt. He just did what he had to do. John, on the other hand, would wait for his father's friends to disperse. After that, the man would either go to bed himself or stay right there in the kitchen. After that, the son would come out of the corner and also go to sleep, and the next day the man simply did not remember anything. This is how the boys lived, constantly dwelling on the street, playing, walking, running, doing different things. And when the summer passed, both went to the first grade. It was hard at school. They didn't want to study at all, but one was forced by his mother. The other was just afraid of his father, so they were pulling their weight. John, my dad called from the kitchen. What? He came in to see him. Here, run to the store. The man gave him money. They won't sell it to me. The kid knew that because he tried it before. Tell me what's in it for me. The father wouldn't stop. Okay, there was a stall in the yard where Aunt Cindy worked. She knew that the boy carried cigarettes or beer for his father, but when she was on shift, she wouldn't give them to him. Hello, John, Aunt Cindy said affectionately. Hello. He was ashamed of her. He didn't know why. Again, she knew why he'd come here. Yeah, he sighed. She put it all in a bag and give him a lollipop or ice cream. Thanks, he'd run away from her. The guy would leave the bag at home, and he would run outside again, where his friend was already waiting for him. They would run until dark and then go home. The guys were never quiet. Basically, they were not friends with anyone, always kept to themselves. Every school year was a struggle, and summer for John and Alex was the best time of their lives. They'd run off to the river in the morning and come back late at night. While I'm at the store distracting Aunt Cindy, you can steal some candy from her. John said. They were in 4th grade. And if we get caught, you know what we'll get for it, Alex said. Come on, laughed his friend back. Okay, when shall we go? Alex was scared, but interested. In their tandem, John was the first and brave, and his friend was the one who was on the run. He had to be pushed and prodded all the time. As soon as my father gives me money again, I'll tell you. Now the guy wasn't shy about anything. He would come to the stall, talk to the saleswoman, and she would fold everything for him, as usual. It's a deal. Alex nodded his head. The day came. The two of them went shopping together. Aunt Cindy just sighed, feeling sorry for the boy. "How are you guys doing?" John asked her. They usually talked about other things. "Are you really interested in this?" Cindy could see that the boys were growing up like waifs. She was already starting to get scared, and now she could see that they were up to something, because one was rubbing around her and the other was looking at something in the far window. Of course, John looked as interested as he could. "What's your friend looking at?" She kept her eyes on Alex. "He's just looking." His friend looked back at him. "That's it, guys. Take your bag and go. Don't bother me." She handed the purchases to John over the counter. "Goodbye, thank you," the boy told her, and they left the store. "My heart's about to jump out," the boy said. "Well?" He waited to see what he would say or show him. "Look," he opened his palm with a handful of chewing gums in it. "Well, you're a hammer." John clapped him on the shoulder. They took everything home and were outside again. The boys decided to try this scheme not only in their stall, but also in other stores. "Show me that canned food over there," leaned over the counter John, as if he couldn't see very well. "Here." The seller, of course, could not refuse. And at that moment, Alex was hiding something in his pocket. "Thank you." John pretended not to like it and handed it back. Then they'd leave the store, and today's booty was sherbet. "That's it, we're living," the friends rejoiced. When they moved to the 7th grade, it started to be a mess. They went to discos, fought with guys, went out with girls. "Would you like a soda?" The guys would ask their girlfriends. Of course, the girls saw that their friends always had something tasty. And then John and Alex got involved with a group of older guys. They taught them a lot of bad things. Their parents knew a lot of things, but they couldn't do anything about it. "Why are you like that? Did I teach you that?" Alex's mother cried. "My Milechka, I'm sorry," he hugged her, as he did when he was a child, and now it worked too. And John was no longer afraid of his father. He was thin, and even if he started yelling, the boy just snapped back. He might not come home at night, and no one might just not notice. Alex beckoned to him by his friend. "What?" he said loudly. Quietly, the guy put his finger to his lips and pointed at the couple sitting on the bench in the park. "So what?" They were looking at them from a distance. "Look at his backpack." John pointed with his eyes alone. Ah, Alex understood him then. The backpack was standing next to the guy, but no one was looking at it. The front pocket was unzipped and the edges of bills were sticking out of it. "I'll go to them now. And you take the bag," John commanded. "I got it," went around the boy. "Hi," the young man approached the couple. "What do you want?" The suitor, who was hugging the girl, immediately tensed up. "Just came to ask, why are you so aggressive?" John pretended to be scared. "Ask and get out of here," waited for the young man's question. "Where is the street?" Saw the boy, as his accomplice had already done everything and fled. "I don't know such a street," thought the man who had just had his money stolen. "Okay. Thanks for that," went away from them, whistling John. The proceeds were okay. They could buy whatever they wanted today. "Easy peasy," laughed Alexa as they discussed what they had done today. Now at school, the boys could go through the pockets of the other students in the locker room. They weren't squeamish about anything. Whatever was lying there, they took for themselves. One day at school, the boys were sitting in class. They were already in 9th grade. They thought they didn't need this education at all, like many other kids. John saw that one of his classmates had a broken chain around his neck, so he told his friend. "Now," he said, and raised his hand. "What?" asked immediately the teacher. She did not like these two-timers who sat on the last desk. "Can I come out?" the boy asked. Of course, rolled the eyes of the young teacher. Alex went between the rows, and when he passed the victim with the chain, as if by accident, pushed him. "What are you doing?" The classmate got up. "Nothing," said Alex brazenly, and himself at this moment with a sneaker pushed the prey back to his friend. "You think you're the coolest here." The guy who was pushed didn't stop. "What's wrong with you?" Alex didn't understand him. "Guys, calm down," the teacher tapped on the table with a pointer. The boys dispersed. But before the lesson was over, they were together again in the corridor. After school," whispered the offending boy. "Easy," laughed Alexa. They were just waiting for it now, because they knew that victory would be theirs. As soon as classes were over, students began to gather behind the school, unknown to them, but almost the whole school knew that there was going to be a fight. When everyone gathered, Alex and Oliver, who had called everyone here today, stood in the center, but both of them were stomping around. "What are you standing there for? Hit him!" John shouted from the crowd to Oliver. "I forgot to ask you." He looked away from his opponent and immediately received a blow to the jaw. "You got it?" Alexa grinned. "Guys, what are you all standing around looking at? I know, scared of them," Oliver shouted then. But the crowd was just buzzing. Everyone was whispering. No one was saying anything out loud. "So are you giving up?" Alex approached the boy. "My parents are coming to school tomorrow." The guy almost cried. "I thought there would be a normal fight, and you gave up with one punch." John shouted after him as Oliver ran away from them. The others laughed. The next day, the mother and father of the boys were called to the school. Also, the police and Oliver's parents were here. Of course, the students were also present. "A report was written on you." The policeman put the paper on the table. "Jesus, Alexa," the mother clutched at her heart. "He himself called me for school after school. I was only defending myself. Everyone can prove it," the boy began to say. "That doesn't change the case. It also says here that the gold chain that was around his neck is missing." The man poked at the sheet. "Broken, lost," John interjected. "Did anyone ask you?" the father said in a hoarse voice. "Why do they always blame us?" Alex made such innocent eyes that it was impossible not to believe them. "If you were boys, no one would have called you here," said the headmaster calmly. "What are we going to do?" Now the mother of the victim spoke. "I think that the boys are right about the chain. Oliver himself could have lost it. And about the fight, they will now apologize. The parents will pay moral damages. And let's part ways. The principal did not need trouble at school." That was the end of it. But at home, both John and Alex were waiting for the proceedings with their parents. His mother, naturally, was crying. She, like many other times, could not understand how a normal boy could grow up to be such a bandit. "Mamulechka, don't cry, please," he hugged her again and again. "You keep telling me that, but you don't fulfill what you promise," she cried more and more. "I'll try to be different." He took his eyes off her. "You are my son, and of course I believe you, but when something like this happens, I believe less and less." The woman sat down on a chair. "Well, how do I punish you now?" asked John's father. "Try." "Punish," stood the son in front of him, hands shoved in his pockets. The guy realized that this man is now unable to do anything to him, even if he wanted to. "You know, it's not too late to put you in an orphanage," his parent told him. "Please, better there than here," the young man shrugged. "Yes, how dare you talk to me like that?" His father raised his hand at him, but did not dare to hit him. "Why are you scared?" John looked at him with his indifferent gaze. "Fuck you." He waved his father's hand and left, as usual, to the kitchen, where he always spent his time. By this time, the boys were almost 16 years old. They were finishing 9th grade, and both knew that they would not go anywhere else. They didn't want to go to school, and they weren't going to go somewhere else. "Alexa, remember, Steve invited us to his place." John was talking about a friend they had recently talked to. "Yeah, so what? You think we should try it again?" Alex asked him. "Why not? He has a lot of connections. He'll tell us what to do, and then we'll go out on our own." John was sure of it for some reason. As soon as they received their certificates, they went straight to the place where Steve lived. He became their senior mentor. John entered the small room that served as the young man's office, followed by Alex. "Come in, if you're not kidding." Steve pointed to the chairs with the pen he had in his hand. The friend sat down and looked at the man who was sitting at the table. "We want to work for you." John began to speak first. "What's the problem? Show and prove that you can, and then welcome to the team." Was not against the one who was considered an authority. "Say what you need. We agree on everything." John behaved very brazenly. Alex at the same time just kept silent. "Well, the first thing you need to do is to get to know everyone, to gain their trust, and it's not so easy." The man at the table tapped his pen on the table. "Okay." The guys got up and walked out. They knew that those who worked for this man gathered in one of the garages. That's where they headed. "Hello." They entered the premises. "Oh, newcomers," spoke one of those inside. "Guys, Steve sent us here. Tell us what we need to do. We're on the same team now." John was still talking brashly. "Well, here are the goods. Here are the addresses. Come on, let's go." It was to their advantage that the guys came to work for the new guy. Nobody knew them yet, so they couldn't be detected. John and Alex happily went to do the task. It only took them a couple hours. When they returned, they were even praised by those who had given them instructions. Did we gain their trust? Alex raised his voice. Hey, guys, that's not how things are done. No one will realize what kind of workers you are. After that, there was more than one more task, which the friends performed perfectly. But no matter how much the rope is twisted, the end will come. And one day they got caught. We didn't do anything, John told the uniformed man. They put them in a car and took them to the station. Naturally, Steve did everything he could. You paid a lot of money to keep John and Alex free. Now you need to sit somewhere for a while. Keep your heads down so no one sees you, the man told them. Both boys were of draft age, but Steve had helped them to get out of the army. Now the friends felt untouchable. They were so happy about it that they forgot about any danger. And so they took another mission again. But they were closely watched because they realized that not just for nothing for them everywhere intercede. Well, have you got them, lovebirds? A surgeon, who they already knew, said to them when they were arrested. I don't know what you think of us, but you want the wrong ones, John told them. The wrong ones, let's see, said the arresting officer. The guys were at the station, and they were being charged, and now it wasn't as simple as the last time, but mostly Alex and John just wanted Alex and John to turn in their partners, and they were as silent as fish. Perhaps for that or some other reason, Steve had helped them out again, and at the trial the young men had a great lawyer who was definitely not free. Instead of the sentence they were promised, they only got 8 months. Well, nothing, we'll get out and you'll regret it, John threatened as they were led away from the courtroom. If incarceration is bad for some people, these two couldn't be bothered. They met a lot of people, and John figured they'd need them someday. Why are you so cocky? One of them asked him. I don't know, life taught me that, he said. Not to say that the guys were respected people there, in places not so remote, but no one offended them. And when they were released, they knew for sure that they would work only together. You understand, Alex, it's easier. You're on your own. I'm on my own, the guy told his friend. Yes, I understand that, but I don't want to give up Pashka either, Alex told him. Steve has done a lot for us, but he's already the last stage. We need to move on. We have a lot of friends and acquaintances, so we won't be lost, John was sure of it. Well, we can try. The main thing is that no one will take offense at us. His friend was still hesitant. As they decided, so they decided. Now their team consisted of 2 people. Everything was about the same as in childhood. One distracted, the other did something. There, you see the window, there lives a grandmother dandelion, but she has a lot of money, and all she keeps at home, John told his accomplice. He found out about it today at the savings bank, when he was just standing in line there. The guy went there specifically for this purpose, to see who has what. So the grandmother got an impressive sum, and she told him that she would keep it at home for now, and when her granddaughter came, she would give it to her. Well, what do you suggest? Alex didn't understand yet. Okay, young girls, they could gain their trust, get them drunk, and then do as they please. But here, an old woman. We'll wait for her to come back, help her, talk to her, and then we'll embezzle the money. The guy was already rubbing his hands together, anticipating future riches. Is that her? Alex saw the old woman. They were sitting on a bench in her yard. Yes, John stood up. He pulled a smile on his face and walked towards the granny. Hello, let me help you. Alex joined his friend. Since he was more loyal, he started to justify himself to the granny. Good afternoon. You see, we moved to your house recently. We don't know anyone yet. We want to establish relations with the neighbors, the guy gibbered. Oh, boys, thank you, of course, but I do not need anything. I'll go. It was obvious that the woman was frightened. Come on, John bent down to take the bags from her, thinking to himself that if she didn't give them to him now, it would be worse. Okay. If you insist, the woman let go of the grocery bag. And the 3 of them walked toward the entrance, talking. And in which apartment do you live? Asked the grandmother. In the 12th, said Alex at random. Oh, what about Maria? She lived there, didn't she? The woman stopped. We don't know, shrugged the guys. She didn't want to leave. She liked the neighborhood. Probably because of the crisis, so she did it. The grandmother was talking to herself. They went into the entryway and followed the one who was going home. How can you carry such a heavy load and refuse to help? Alex, who was carrying the bags, said. She opened the door and turned to the helpers. And what? Not even tea? John went on the offensive. I was just going to suggest it. She agreed again against her will. They entered the apartment. John looked around. There was a big old chest of drawers in the room, probably where the things they had come for today were. It's nice here. Alex went into the kitchen and put the bags there. While they were putting the kettle on, getting the groceries out, John was doing his thing. Yes, I like it myself. She looked down the corridor, searching for the other young man with her eyes. So we should probably get going. He came out of the bathroom. You wanted tea, wondered the landlady. My stomach's churning. John took his hands in his. All right, she went to the door to see the guests off. If you need anything, feel free to contact me. I have a gun. Pulled back the half of his jacket. Why? Randy's eyes widened very much. So, to calm the talkative, he shrugged, and they left the apartment. Why did you do everything like that? Alex didn't understand. How? They went down the stairs. She'll report it. The accomplice was sure. Now she's afraid. Because she thinks that we live here, they left the entrance and went to the park. And that wasn't the only situation. In a short period of time, the friends had done so much and left as much mess, all the cops were scrambling to find them. We should buy an apartment, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, to hide there. Alexis said his thoughts out loud. Yes, you're right. We have enough money, so we can afford it, agreed with him. One day, the guys got a call from Steve. Hello, John listened to him. What are you doing? Even I've never done this before. He was indignant. What do you care? The young man didn't understand. How is it? Remember where you started. That's where they started looking for you with me, shouted the older comrade into the phone. Calm down, it's every man for himself. John kept saying this phrase constantly, as if it had become his motto. If I find out where you are, I'll be the first to turn you in. Steve hung up the phone. I told you he'd be mad at us. Alex looked at his friend. Listen, fuck him. If you want, we'll deal with him too. John believed in himself. The friends did buy an apartment. They went to a small town, found some vagabond there, registered everything on him. Now there was an apartment to stay in, and they could bring what they already had. Listen, why are we doing this with you if we have nothing? Alex didn't understand. I like it when I can influence something. Sometimes it seemed that the guy was out of his mind. I understand we would buy cars, apartments, watches, something else. And so shrugged his friend. What are you now? We will save the right amount of money, make the documents and revive it abroad. He came up and tapped his finger on the forehead of a friend. Sometimes Alex thought about his mother, how she was, but he couldn't go to her. That's why he was worried. Guys got acquainted with girls. Through them, they came out to different people, fathers, suitors, and others. And they get their asses handed to them. Austin was just a cab driver. He loved his parents, and he felt sorry for his mom. He and his father, although they lived together, he did not support her, and most importantly, did not help from the word at all. Therefore, the guy tried since childhood. Rishka, come here, called Austin brother. He was chopping wood, wanted him to help him. Now, never left the one in trouble. Austin and Carlo were twins. They had always been together since birth. The support of each other often helped. Why aren't you boys still in school? My mother came out to the yard. What are you starting? It's a 3-minute walk. Austin told her, we better do more here. Come on, don't argue, let's go. His brother took him by the hand and dragged him into the house to change his clothes. And the boy listened to him. They practically did everything together, went to school, learned lessons, did something. This could not but please the parents. Once, after the 7th grade, the father's car broke down. He was fixing it in the yard. The boys were interested in it. They watched what and how Dad was doing. From that moment, their love for these vehicles began. I won't go to the 10th grade. I'll go to technical school. I'll do car repair or something related to it, Austin said. You have to go to college. Carlo was against it. It had been the same for them since they were kids. If one brother was happy to be praised or to get a certificate for participation, there was also satisfaction. The second had to make the most out of everything. If praise, then you need something to back it up. If the competition, then the first place. And that's what Carlo was going for. You're not upset. They were walking home from school and Austin had a C in his diary. Why should I be upset? It was a satisfactory grade, which means that everyone was satisfied with my answer, laughed the boy. No, I can't do that. If Carlo got even a B, he was already very upset about it. We are different, but we are together. The brothers hugged. They realized that they would never part. Even if they had their own families, they would still be close to each other. "So, have you decided everything for sure?" My mother asked me at home when one of her sons finished ninth grade. "Yes, I have already submitted the documents," he nodded. "How independent you are," the woman rejoiced. "I want to go to school, and since I have skills, I want to start working part-time to bring at least some income," the boy said. By this time, the father practically stopped appearing at home, so the sons understood that, except for them, their mother has no more support. "I'll help when I can," said Carlo. "Well done," hugged their mother, as the boys wanted. So they did. One left school, and the second continued to study hard. Over the years, they had to prepare themselves well, so that they could get into the school. Carlo dreamed of militia school. "All right, consider that I study and work," said Austin. Right at the technical school, where he received knowledge, there was a service station. That's where he got an internship. "That's great. Now I can drive my car there too." His mom was happy for her son. "Congratulations," his brother shook his hand. He himself graduated with honors from the 10th grade. There was still one more to go, but no one doubted his abilities. When school started again in the fall, Carlo went there with his head. He prepared for exams, went to preparatory courses. Not a minute in his life was not in vain. "I invite you to my graduation," said the joyful guy when everything was over. "And I invite you too. It's good that the dates don't coincide." Austin had already graduated from the technical school. He was going to join the army. But unfortunately, the guy was declared medically unfit. The guys passed medical examination together, and now the second brother was very much afraid that he could also find something. Then goodbye to the dream of higher education. But all went well. The graduation was over. Now one of the boys worked at the same station, repairing cars, and the other went to take the exams. Everyone was worried about Carlo, but as always, he didn't let anyone down. "Son, how are you?" Whenever she had the chance, his mom would call him. "There's hell." He didn't hide anything, but he gritted his teeth and kept studying. "You don't like it?" Mom was worried. "It's okay," he lied, but only partially, because on the one hand he liked it, but it was very hard. Austin had been working hard the whole time. He continued to live with his mom, and whatever he could earn, the guy brought home. "You're either at work or at home all the time," the woman told him. "Mom, there is no free time at all," he answered her. "Well, I do not know," would have met someone already. By this time she herself got a job in a cab, first as a dispatcher, and then on the line went. "I don't want to be anyone yet. I'm fine without it," the guy said about the girls. "I don't know, but I'd like to meet someone. My mom's sick of being alone." "Why do you do this job?" The son understood that she does it because of the lack of money in the family. "Why do you have to do everything alone?" She couldn't let Austin spend all his time on the family. Okay, as long as he agreed. Carlo started having furloughs where he would go out with his friends. On one such outing, he met a girl. It was an accident. His friend had long been friends with a girl. She also studied in this city, and today she took her friend with her. "Carlo," the guy approached her. "Casey." She was a little embarrassed. The young man realized that they were a couple for a couple today, so whether he wanted to or not, he would have to communicate with his new acquaintance. "Are you studying or working?" Carlo started right away with his questions. "Both studying and working," Casey answered. "Oh, you're just like my brother," he laughed. "What do you mean?" She didn't understand. "Well, in what sense? In a direct way, you also went to study and began to work, and you now say that you study and work." The guys all together went to the cafe. It was freezing outside, so they needed somewhere to warm up. They sat down at a table. Carlo's friend talked only with his girlfriend. It was understandable. The leave was not so often given, so it was necessary to squeeze the most out of this time. But the young man wasted no time with Casey either. At first, when he saw her, he didn't like her very much. But then, when they started talking, he realized that the girl wasn't so simple. Initially, Casey said that she worked from home. The guy smirked to himself. He thought that only those who had failed in school, who couldn't get into something, would go for such a job. "Why didn't you get in right after school?" He started asking her questions. "I couldn't," she answered honestly. Then everything became clear to Carlo. "Were you a bad student?" he assumed. "No, I graduated with a gold medal." She amazed him with this answer. "What a story you have," Carlo marveled. They spent the whole evening together. Afterwards, The guys walked the girls home and went back to their apartment. "How did you like the girl?" his friend asked him. "Nothing, not much. She aroused a lot of different emotions," Carlo said honestly. "I didn't even realize you were talking so calmly that you had some emotions going on there." They talked some more and parted ways. Carlo started thinking about this girl more and more. Maybe it was still from the fact that they were in a confined space and they weren't allowed to go out much. And when the next layoff came, Carlo was no longer thinking about where he would go and what he would spend the evening on. The guy went straight to the flower store, bought some flowers, and went to get Casey. Hi, they met. He gave her the flowers. Oh, how nice. The girl acted like she was very modest and decent. Closer to the new year, their relationship was already so strong that the young man was ready to introduce her to his parents. "How do you look at it? I have a vacation at the end of January. We could go together," he told her. "You know, to be honest, I'm a little scared," she answered him. "Don't be scared. I have the world's mom," he told her. And the first time Casey saw her future mother-in-law, she really got it. And then, as it turned out later, the circus simply began. When Casey arrived at Carlo's mom's house, she said hello and was very quiet. "Can I help you?" She'd do anything to help. The next time, the guy couldn't do it himself, but the woman said that Casey could come along with her mom. So the girl did, and the next weekend, there were already 2 families gathered in the courtyard gazebo. Austin and Cassie and her mom were here today. It was really nice. "It was so nice to meet you." The women were socializing, the kids too. "How you remind me of Carlo," Casey said. "Even though you are very different, but when I look at you, I just can't get over it." "Nothing, you will soon get used to them. They are very different," said her future mother-in-law. Casey wanted to think so. And indeed, when it was March 8th, Carlo asked for a leave of absence. The ring was already bought. He stopped by for the bouquet, and they agreed to meet near a well-known restaurant in town. They got there first, sat there for a while. Casey could see it wasn't that simple. She assumed, but Carlo did nothing. Then Casey did not even stutter about it. And the guy in turn saw that she guessed that he wanted to propose, so he sat there and kept quiet. He wanted to surprise her. Casey, wait. When the restaurant closed and they went outside, she headed down the sidewalk towards her house. What? She turned around. It was obvious that her expectations were not met, and the girl seemed to take offense. "Will you be my wife?" He handed her a ring and smiled. "Why are you doing this?" She ran up to him and hugged him. "How?" He made a surprised face. "I saw that you were dressed unusually, that the flowers were not as usual, the restaurant was expensive. I thought that you wanted to propose, but you were sitting and silent. Everything was as usual," she began to tell, and she herself at the same time tried on the ring. "I wanted it to be a surprise for you, not something you expected." He laughed and hugged her once again. "Of course I will become your wife." She put the ring on her finger and admired it for a few more seconds. After that, the young people hugged each other. Today they had to part, but together they knew that when they got married they would be fine. "Mom, I'm getting married," Carlo called home. "When? How? Why?" Mom had a lot of questions, but she couldn't formulate any of them. "Who are you gonna marry?" "The other day I proposed to Cassie. Of course, I would like everyone to be present, but unfortunately, I do not have such an opportunity," the guy told her. "Okay, well, next time you have time, come to our place right away," mouthed the woman. "It's a deal," he said. Also, Casey called her mother, told her everything, and said that they would be going soon, as if to matchmake. Everyone was pleased. Everyone was happy. And when the moment came, Carlo, Casey, and her mother came to visit the groom. The hosts were already waiting for them at the set table. That evening they sat very well. Everyone appreciated the ring that Carlo gave to his future wife. And so, the day came when they went to apply to the registry office. The date was set. The young people decided that the wedding would be played in August because Carlo had a weekend there. All the time they were waiting for the wedding date, Casey was working, Carlo was studying. They met occasionally. Everything was fine. Casey, both with Carlo and alone, traveled to visit his parents. They communicated well with Mari's mother, just as Casey's mother communicated with her future in-law. Neither had any beef with each other. Finally, the moment came. They decided not to spend a lot of money to celebrate everything at the groom's house. In the morning, his mother was spinning like a squirrel in a wheel, when the others, the mother of the bride herself, other guests, were in hairdressers and beauty salons, make up for themselves. Here everything was churning, boiling, puffing. I didn't want to make a mess in front of the guests. "Mom, where are you? Are we on our way to the registry office?" Carlo called her. Austin was already waiting in the car at the gate. They got in. They arrived. The registration was quick. After that, the young people drove around and arrived at Carlo's house. Everybody sat down at the table. "Could someone help me?" the lady of the house asked. Everyone looked at her, but it was as if no one paid attention. "Okay, I'll do it myself." She went further into the kitchen, tears rolling from her eyes. She couldn't believe that nobody really needed anything, only her. After more than 2 hours had passed, the bride's mother came into the kitchen. "Why are you here?" she asked the groom's mother. "Who's going to cook? There's no one here." "I asked for help, but no one even turned a deaf ear," she said. "Oh well, I see." She went back to her room. It was so frustrating that I couldn't put it into words. And when the young people went home, the bride said goodbye to everyone and just passed by the mother of the groom. "Casey, bye," said the woman to her, but she did not even turn around. Already after one day, the newlyweds left for their town. And no matter how many times the mother called Casey, she just didn't pick up the phone. "Carlo, what's going on?" his mom asked him one day. "I don't know," he answered honestly. The guy really did not understand what happened, because for almost a year the relationship between his daughter-in-law and mother-in-law was very good, and what happened now? No one understood. It seems that even Casey herself did not understand it. In September, Carlo went to the last course. They lived like that, he in the barracks, Casey in the city. Yes, now that they were husband and wife, they saw each other more often, but now there was a confrontation between the two, always fighting, the husband's mother and his wife. No matter how much the mother-in-law did not get in touch with her daughter-in-law, because they used to communicate well, she did not want to talk to her, and in general did not want to do anything in common. Ola thought that now she was a wife, and the most important woman in the life of her man, but Carlo didn't think so. Before New Year's Eve, they let him go on vacation. "I'm going to my mom's," he told Casey. "No, we'll celebrate here," she told him. "Who said that?" He didn't understand. "I did," she replied. "My mother and I haven't seen each other for so long, so I don't care what you said. I'm going there," the young man said confidently. "If you leave now, then we're getting a divorce," Casey postured. "Then we're getting a divorce," he said. "What? And you're just going to leave it like that?" The girl didn't understand. "Well, you could just say it," he told her. Casey cried, but Carlo was no longer touched by these tears. His mother had done so much for him in this life that he simply could not trade her for a wife. Yes, he loved both of them, but if they communicated, they would be fine. The guy gathered his things, turned to his wife. "I'm giving you time to think," he told her. "If you come and you're okay, then we'll be okay too. And if not, then goodbye." Those were his last words before he left. Carlo came home alone. At first, everyone was surprised by this, and he explained to everyone what had happened. But then the guy got tired of it, and when people asked him where Casey was, he just said that she didn't come home because of work. "Son, tell me, do you feel that bad yourself?" his mom asked him all the time. "Mom, well, of course, how do you think to be with a man for such a long time, and now just like that to take and separate?" He did not look at the woman, because it was difficult for him to do it. "Well, it'll work out." She'd come over and hug her baby and stroke his head. Yes, I know that. He realized that now he would finish his studies and go to work. Everything would work out for him. There wasn't much time to think about personal problems. Maybe Casey would get her head on straight and things would still work out. "Look, Carlo, if it's all about me, you can talk to your wife to find some compromise," his mother advised him. "Look, why is it that when Casey came into our family, you accepted her freely? You didn't say a word, whether you like her or not. And she can do that, although from my side, the girl I can choose. But I cannot choose my mom," reasoned the young man. "Well, you're right about something," the woman agreed with him. Casey never came. She spent the whole weekend and holidays at home, or maybe somewhere else. No one knows, or will tell. Carlo went back to school. He didn't even stop by to see Casey. "Hi," he called her a week later. "Hello," she greeted him. "I think you've already come to terms with the divorce, right?" he asked the girl. "You don't call, you don't say anything. What should I do?" She didn't understand. I thought you were the one who was supposed to call me, Carlo answered her. Me? Casey was indignant. Then let's start the paperwork, because I have exams in a few months and I'm going to go live there in my hometown, the guy told her. Good, like that was all she was waiting for. I don't understand, Casey. What happened? We used to date. We used to talk. Everything was always great. And now what? He asked her the same question for an unknown number of times. That's it. I don't want to communicate anymore. I have only one condition, or you stop communicating with your mom, or she stopped talking because she knew that he himself would guess what she wanted to say next. I understood everything. Then we filed for divorce, the guy told her, although it was very pitiful. After that began hard study, preparing for exams, passing them, and then in the summer, Carlo went to his hometown to get a job there. How glad I am that my children are together again, said the mother to her sons as they sat around the table eating dinner. Yes, me too, clapped his brother on the shoulder Carlo. Did you find a job? Austin asked him. I know I'll find one for sure. Well, I want to look around a bit. The young man was confident. Not a few months later, Carlo was already working for the police. This could not but please both the boy and his family. Austin continued to work at the station, and he also bought himself a cheap car, and now, like his mother, was a taxi driver. I'm invited to the reunion, Austin said to Carlo. That's great, go, he told him. Why don't you go? We were in the same class. My brother was surprised. So we had in the 10th and 11th grade were completely different guys and girls. Go meet. I have a lot of work, he told him then. My brother went without thinking because he hadn't been anywhere for a long time. He wanted to have fun. The meeting was at a restaurant, and when Austin got there, almost everyone was there. Hello. You could hear it every step of the way. Even though it had been a few years since high school, some people had changed a lot. Who are you? And where are you now? I wanted to know how everyone was doing. Austin sat down on an empty seat. Opposite him sat two girls' classmates with their young men. Hi, Julia. Hi, Selena greeted them. Oh, Austin, you haven't changed at all. They looked at him. Alex introduced himself to Julia's companion. John did the same to Sveta's suitor. The guys shook their hands in response. It was a very pleasant acquaintance. All evening everyone was talking, asking who, how, and where. Alexa, Austin is a normal guy. He has a car. We can hook up with him, John told his friend. Well, it's obvious that he's a normal driver. What can you take from him? Alex confirmed. They exchanged contacts, and a few days after the reunions, they called and agreed to meet. Hey, guys, Austin drove up to them. Oh, hey, they got in his car. What was your business with me? The young man was willing to do anything to make a buck. Look, we're the same business, and we need a car all the time, the friend said. What's the problem? Austin didn't understand. That's the problem. We don't have a car or a license, they said. Although it could be bought, but they didn't think about it until today. So, you guys are hiring me? The guy concluded. If you want to call it that, the friends looked at each other and laughed. And what will be my duties? Austin was now curious. At the first call you must be near, where we say, and there and will need to take us away and bring. Do not be afraid. Money will not hurt. They cackled to him. Austin thought, why not? He was taking his clients by car, and here it would be as if they were regular passengers. That's it, Austin. Then it's a deal. They shook hands and set the next meeting. After that, the guy drove his friends wherever they needed to go and drove himself home. Mom, I think I found another part-time job. The young man came home. Listen, aren't you overworking yourself? Maddie asked him. No, it's not hard yet, he told her. Well, it's not hard. It's not hard. Try it. It won't work. It won't work. A mother was always on the side of her children. Austin couldn't wait to start working with the boys. And what if you wait for the order of customers? It's time, and here they are already ready, who also promised not to offend with money. A week later, the guy's cell phone rang in the morning. Austin was sleepy, so he didn't understand much. Hi, Austin, are you ready to work? His new acquaintances asked him. Sure, you can say you already have me, he smiled. That's it. Now I'll discount the address, and we're waiting for you, John told him. While the message came, the young man had time to wash and dress. He started the car and drove off. Today was just wondering what he was going to do. The guy called the base. He said he wouldn't be in today. Hello, got in the car, friends. Shall we go? Austin looked at them in the rear view mirror. Yeah, right here. Alex handed him a piece of paper with the address. It'll be done now. It was even kind of exciting. Austin dropped off his passengers. They told him where and how long to expect them and left. The guy shrugged. He was okay with that. It was a long wait, 2 hours, and Austin was already thinking that he had refused to work at the base today for nothing. John and Alex suddenly appeared in the cabin. Got it? Grinned the driver. He pressed the gas pedal and they sped down the roads. To where he took, one of the guys was holding his side and wrinkling his nose the whole time. Austin didn't ask any unnecessary questions. He realized that anything could happen, but he had no idea what he was really doing right now. When they reached the place where John and Alex needed to go, one got out of the car and the other handed Austin a whole wad of money. "What's this?" the driver asked. "Your reward," the man told him. "Why?" Austin's eyes looked at the bills and at the man who had given them to him. "Why, you've done your part." The friends decided among themselves that they would pay the driver well to keep him quiet. Well, the young man didn't argue with him. He drove home. In his head, he couldn't understand how in one day he could earn as much as he had never earned before, not even for 6 months, and decided not to talk about anything at home, because there was no telling what they might think about him. The boy entered the house, put the money he had earned in a secluded place. He decided that he would not spend it yet, in case something happened by mistake. "Are you here already?" Mom was surprised to see her son in the kitchen. "Yes, I've done everything for today." He didn't go into details. "You want some lunch?" Maddie asked him. It wouldn't hurt. Austin was still reeling from what had happened a few hours ago. After that, he worked his usual job for a week, cab driver by day, station attendant by night. And then, the guys called him again. Today, for some reason, he had to drive towards some village. Not that it was famous, it wasn't even on the navigator. When they got there, the driver was told to stop somewhere away from the houses, in the bushes or behind trees. Austin didn't care at all where to expect a passenger. He pulled away so he couldn't be seen, stuck his headphones in his ears, and just listened to music. Not an hour later, John and Alex walked over to the car and climbed into the back seat. "There's practically nothing today, but you don't worry, we'll pay you for sure," the guy said. "No shit, of course I'm not worried," he thought. Even if he didn't get paid today, the money they gave him last time would be enough to pay for a few of these trips of his. The next day they were traveling again to the same village. Austin realized that if this was being done, it meant that they hadn't fully talked things through yesterday. In fact, the boys had learned that soon, a highway would be built through this village, and it was necessary to buy up the houses that had been built here, because now they were worth a penny, and when everything began, they would be ready to buy them for any money. But some of the old people resisted, so it took a while to talk them into selling their homes. So John and Alex came up with a scheme. "So they'll be left without everything," Alex told his partner. And you don't care much about that. He didn't understand him. He knew that he often felt sorry for many people, but John didn't feel sorry for anyone. He knew that if you don't do anything for yourself, no one will do it for you. "All right, everybody, I'll shut up. We're doing it right," the comrade said. "Austin, are you ready?" They called him in the morning. "Always ready," he answered, and again they drove to that village. The guys went house to house, and when everything was finished, Austin again received an impressive amount of money. At home, he analyzed the situation. He understood that the guys were not exactly doing legitimate things, but he couldn't refuse the money either. "Why are you sitting there writing?" His mom came into his room. "I don't know. I want to buy myself a new cell phone and a watch," Austin told her. "I see you've made some money, huh?" The mother was happy that her children were independent. "Yes, I have some. I work hard for a reason, and I'm thinking of selling my car and buying a new one," the boy told her. "Wow, you've already earned so much?" The mother was surprised. "No, I haven't, but I'll pay some part of it. I'll take a loan." Austin dreamed about cars, so he wanted to have a good car for a long time. "Well, it's up to you. I'm not going to discourage or advise." His mother left him. They had been working with John and Alex long enough for Austin to realize that the guys were really doing something wrong. "Are you guys stealing and cheating old people?" He turned to them as they drove back home. "Look, it's none of your business." John immediately took his question in stride. "But since I'm here with you, I'm in on it." Even though I'm sitting in the car, Austin realized that if they were arrested, he would be an accomplice or, at the very least, the witness. But he didn't think about the latter because he was hiding it all. What's your business? What are you talking about? Reaching out to our grandmothers? John looked at him and smirked. I hadn't made up my mind, I was just asking, and Austin was beginning to realize that these were not easy guys, and that he'd been wrong to get involved with them. He and his brother were still together, sometimes working, sometimes vacationing. And so, today too, they went together for a vacation. Austin and Carlo had made reservations at a restaurant. Now they had ordered. They sat and waited for their food to be brought to them. So, how's work going? Carlo asked his brother. Yes, everything slowly. The guy realized that he could not tell him anything. Oh, I'm in a mess at work too, Carlo said and sighed heavily. What's wrong? My brother was ready to help any minute. There's a gang in town. At first, we thought we knew who it was and even got on the trail, but when we caught them, it turned out that it wasn't quite so. You know, these scumbags do what they want, and they're not even hiding from anyone, and we can't catch them. Carlo was completely frank. Austin stared at one point. He was comparing to himself what he did on a daily or weekly basis and what his brother was telling him. It was clear that this was about Alex and John. No, I haven't heard anything like that. Austin puckered his lips and made a surprised face. Well, how would you hear? You don't have a lot of money or good real estate in the right neighborhood or anything like that. Carlo knew what these crooks were aiming for. Yeah, well, I'm not a girl, Austin laughed. What do you know about girls? His brother asked him. Oh, that's enough about work. Let's have a little rest. I from mine, you from yours. Austin wanted to change the subject. What can I say? I can't think about anything but this. I'm the new guy the boss has demanded, and we can't do anything. It's a small town, and we can't find the gang. They brought the order, and the guys started eating. What makes you think it's a gang? Maybe there's only a few of them, Austin told him with his mouth full. Bro, come on, you stay out of my business and I'll stay out of yours, Carlo advised him. But you are interfering in my work, squinted his eyes at him. Oh, when has it ever been? If we fix cars, we do it together. I don't interfere. They were arguing like kids. Okay, enough of that. The guys sat around talking about more than just work. At some point, John turned to the girls. What, Casey didn't call you? Austin asked his brother. No, Carlo replied regretfully. I don't understand how this can happen. It would have been nice if it hadn't come to marriage, but it did. Austin shook his head and raised his eyebrows. I also do not want to think about it. It's been so long. She does not give me a divorce and does not want to talk when I call, told him the young man. In general, nothing is clear. They sat for a while, and after that decided to go for a walk. Well, and you, when will you have a girlfriend? Austin was constantly being asked about it, but now he didn't care about that. The guy had a plan in his head that he had to earn a house, a car, that if he met a girl, he would bring her to everything ready, and not so easy. I don't know where to get acquainted with them. You went with your friend, you got acquainted with your girlfriend, and who will take me? Okay, someday I'll have a weekend, we'll go with you. I'll introduce you to a good girl. In all seriousness, said brother. Ha ha ha, you're funny. He'll introduce me to a nice girl, you introduce yourself first. I think it's because you can't find anyone. That's why you haven't divorced Casey. If you wanted to, you'd have gotten divorced a long time ago. You're married to your job now, and you're sitting there. Austin didn't give in to him. Oh, you're one to talk. He poked his brother in the shoulder. Okay, that's it. Enough arguing. They walked up to the gate of the house. The boys were very cheerful. They went home. Their mother looked at all this through the window and only smiled because she knew she had raised good people. At home, the boys talked for a long time more about their business, about their problems, but about those with whom Austin was now traveling, not another word was said. Austin, are you free now? His friends called him, as he supposed they would. Yes, of course. Do you have somewhere to go? He answered them and made sure none of the household could hear him. In a couple of hours, we'll be waiting for you near our house, they told him, and then there were only short beeps. The lust for money beckoned the guy, and he couldn't refuse, so he quickly got ready and went out of the gate. Austin is working hard for us, the mother told her second son. And okay, see how serious he is. I thought he had wind in his head when he left 9th grade, but it turns out, see how determined he is. Carlo was happy for his brother too. Today Austin was driving his employers far away to another city. I see you have business not only in our town, he asked them. Steer, keep your eyes on the road. John pointed his finger out the windshield. Austin drove on. His mind was full of thoughts. They pulled up to some house. The young men gave Austin some money. What's that? He didn't understand. The amount wasn't the same as usual. Get your own place and hang out here for a few days, Alex told him. Okay, he didn't argue. When the young men got out of the car, Austin thought of following them. He started the car, but didn't move. What are you standing there for? Drive, come on, turned John. Yeah, I'm already disappearing. Austin drove. He saw the guys go into some driveway. He stopped around the corner of the house, but no one else came out until the evening. He shook his head and thought to himself that maybe the guys had gone to see their girlfriends and were going to stay with them for a few nights, and he was thinking bad things about them. Hello, can I rent a room? He came to the nearest hotel. Of course, it was hard to call it a hotel, but it was still a good place to stay. Austin spent 2 long days here, idle, not knowing what to do. He tried to call Alex a couple times, but he couldn't get through to him. So he decided to drive around the city a little. He got in his car, drove off. At some point, Austin saw a colorful sign of some restaurant bar, felt that he hadn't eaten for a long time, decided to stop and go in. Welcome to our establishment. He was greeted at the entrance. It was so nice. Austin was escorted to a table. He took the menu, chose what he wanted, and placed his order. While he waited for his order to be brought to him, he looked around. There weren't that many people here, but still some tables were occupied. When everything was brought to him and he started to eat, a girl suddenly came up to him. Hi, she smiled at him. Hi, he wanted to know what she wanted from him. What's your name? You could see that the girl was embarrassed, but at the same time, she was smiling and talking in a friendly way. Austin, what's yours? He supported her game. And I'm Naomi, she extended her hand to him. Nice to meet you, Naomi, he smiled. Austin, can you swim? She asked him a strange question. Yes, I can swim. Why? It wasn't clear at all. Too bad, I would have saved you, she laughed, and at the end she turned around and went to her table. The guy followed her with a glance, and she sat down where another girl was sitting. They started discussing something and laughing together. The young man finished everything that was brought to him, left the money, got up and went, but not to the exit, but to the table of girls. Hello again, you went over to their table. I told you, said the one he didn't know yet. What did you say? Austin looked at her. He realized that something surreal was going on, so he wanted to get to the bottom of it. You'll have to excuse us, said Naomi, who he had just recently met. For what? He sat down with them. You see, my friend and I are always arguing about something, and today when we saw you, she said it would be weak for me to come up and ask you what I asked you. She blushed and laughed again. You know, I'll tell you, no one has ever met me like that before. The guy smiled too. Well, this is my friend Melina, introduced her companion. Well, let's meet. I'm Austin. You probably already know about it. After that, the 3 young people were already sitting and laughing together. You know, it's my first time in your city. Maybe you could show it to me. I didn't know how to lure the girls outside. With pleasure, they looked at each other and laughed. They left the place, got in Austin's car, and drove off. He had learned so much about this town today, and the girls were locals, so they had a lot to tell Austin. In the evening, he drove the girls home. Melina was dropped off first. Naomi wanted to go out with her, but the guy insisted that he drive her. She got back in the car and they drove off. I don't know how much longer I'll be here, but can we exchange our phone numbers? Austin asked her if that was possible, of course. Why not? She started dictating her numbers to him. Austin wrote it down and dialed her immediately. Then Naomi wrote down his phone number as well. When they were already outside her house, Austin suggested they meet the next day if he was still here. I don't mind, can we take Melina with us? The girl asked him. You know, why not? Austin said. They agreed that he would call, and only then the girl got out of the car. The guy was on his way to the hotel and thought that it turned out to be so easy to get acquainted with someone, and he hadn't been able to do any of that until now. But to be honest, she was the one who approached him. He didn't think about it anymore, but in the evening, when he was about to go to bed, he wanted to text Naomi so badly that he couldn't deny himself. He picked up his phone and wrote her a message, just saying good night. She texted him back. The next day, John and Alex didn't call, so Austin realized he had a chance to chat some more with his new acquaintance. Hi, he texted her today. I'm still here. I'm very happy about it, she replied to the message. They agreed where and when they would meet. Austin picked up Irina, and then they picked up Marlena together. Well, wow, you have a whole love story, got in the car. Come on, Naomi shoved her in the side. Why, if it wasn't for me, you would have never met, so be thankful, she laughed. Today, just like yesterday, they went to the same cafe and afterward drove around town. Austin, haven't you lost us yet? Alex called him in the evening. No, you said a couple of 3 days, I was just exploring the city, the young man answered. That's it, you can drive up to the same place, his friends told him. When they got home, Austin got twice as much money. He didn't understand what could have happened in that town, but he still believed that maybe the guys were in the apartment resale business or something like that. That's what he convinced himself. Now that there was a girl, he wanted to impress her. Carlo, can you help me? He asked his brother at home. What exactly? He wanted to know. I want to buy a car, but I don't know. I have doubts. Sure, what do you ask? They got together and drove off. First, they had to put the car Austin was now driving on the market. This was done quickly. And once the right car was chosen, they had to wait for someone to buy the car on the lot. Wow, bro, you don't feel bad about giving that much money. Knew how much the new car Austin wanted cost. I'd rather buy a new and good one than anything else, the guy said in response. Okay, your money, you decide, my brother didn't argue with him. A week later, the old car was sold, so we could go to get the one Austin wanted. So are you happy? They drove back in the new car. You ask, of course I'm happy. Austin sat behind the wheel and couldn't believe that his dream had come true. I'm happy for you too. His brother hugged him right outside the house. So call your mom, let her get in. Let's test drive the car, he said to Carlo. He quickly went to get his mother. They got in the car and drove off. It was fabulous. The next day, John and Alex called and said they were waiting for Austin in the morning outside their house. Okay, I'll be on time, he replied. As he drove to his employers tomorrow, he was shaking. What they would think of him, what they would say, how they would react to his new car. He was curious about everything. Wow, the young men were just standing on the street looking at Austin's car, but when he came out and waved to them, they were speechless. You see how to live, not like you and me to be atomized. They walked to the car and Alex said quietly to John, "It's thanks to suckers like Austin that you and I have such a good life," John told him. They walked to the car, got in and looked around. Wow, John marveled again at the kind of car the average driver could afford. Do you like it? Austin turned to them as if to show off. You bet, it's no longer economy, but business class. Alex raised his finger up. Oh guys, I don't know what you do there, but you helped me a lot. Without you, I would never have been able to earn such a car. Austin was telling the truth. John and Alex looked at each other, but kept silent. Nobody said anything the rest of the way. They arrived at some house as usual. This time the driver was sent for a ride. Hello, he texted Naomi as he pulled away. They were practically talking all day now. She didn't know when she approached him at the restaurant that this was how it was going to work out, but she was really enjoying it. How are you? What are you doing? He asked the girl. I'm fine, waiting for your call or message, she was telling him. I missed you. He was telling the truth. Why sputter all those extra words? And me, Naomi liked Austin too, and she didn't want to lose contact with him. I think we'll meet soon. I have a surprise for you, he spoke in reels. What is it? She tried to guess. I'll come, you'll see, he wanted the girl to be surprised. Okay, right, I'll be waiting, and a heart at the end. Austin also sent emoticons of hugs and kisses and also a heart. He had never been this sentimental before, but with Naomi he suddenly was. He made another laugh and decided it was time to head back. No one had said today that they would be staying here for a few days. Just as he thought about it, his phone vibrated. Austin, hurry up and get here, John shouted into the phone. The guy pressed the gas pedal. He arrived. The guys were already there waiting for him. There was obviously something wrong with them, but Austin didn't understand. Let's go, thumped the seat with one of the two from the back seat. The car smelled sour. What's that smell? Austin turned to his partners and saw that one of them was bleeding from his arm. How many times do I have to tell you to keep your eyes on the road, not on us? The guy drove them home and went back to his place. He didn't want to think about anything, but the thoughts came into his head. Hey, his brother greeted him at the gate. Say, I was wondering if you were going to drive his car too. Carlo's been thinking about it all day today, so as soon as Austin got here, he decided to ask him. You know, I hadn't really thought about it. I don't have time for it. You got out of the car, and they went home. Carlo sat down at the table. He saw that his brother was always with his phone in his hand. You know, I met a girl. She has a nice friend. Austin smiled. It was funny because the girl's name was Melina, and he called her nice. You've been kind of weird lately, sat his brother across from him, looking at him. And you're tired? Austin parried. I don't sleep day or night, the young man replied. What, you still can't catch them? Austin guessed. Their range has expanded. It seems here they are. Just reach out, and they slip away again, the brother told and showed. I think you'll get through this one easily. He didn't know what else to say to the driver of these very badasses. They talked for a long time. Austin told his brother about Naomi and Melina. He promised to introduce them. Casey called me yesterday. Carlo remembered. So she's finally getting a divorce. My brother guessed. She said she wanted to meet, but if it had been earlier, then maybe I would have agreed. But now, he stopped talking. I see you urgently need a new acquaintance. Austin wanted to support his brother, but didn't know how to do it. At that moment, his mother came back from work. She was happy for her boys for the umpteenth time, heated up dinner, and sat down with them at the table. Listen, Alex, don't you think that our driver is a bit cloudy, asking strange questions? John asked his friend. Yes, I noticed it too. They were sitting in their apartment and drinking. Anyway, I think we should get rid of him, but he's just a cab driver. We called him, drove away, and kaput, you ran his finger along his neck. What are you doing? We had so many conversations with him. Although Alex did different things, he was always in doubt, unlike his partner. And what, now do nothing with those with whom we communicated? You saw his car, we'll fuck it too. But we have to do everything carefully. John started to build a plan of action. Okay, let's wait a bit. Alex wanted not to talk about it. What to wait for? We should act at once, as we always do. The young man poured another portion of alcohol. Well, I don't know. All those people were strangers, but with this one, he stopped talking and drank. Why are you so indecisive all the time? I didn't understand his friend. All right, said what we'll do, as usual, agreed with him sidekick. Not today, now we're just relaxing. They collapsed on the couch. The next few days, Austin didn't get any orders from Alex or John, so he asked his mother for a car and went back on the line to do some taxing. They were now going to work every other day. Naomi, hi, he called his friend. Why haven't you called or written in so long? She said resentfully, without even saying hello. There was no time at all, but now there is time to meet. He pleased the girl. I agree, I could hear her smiling. Good, then I'll come. They hadn't seen each other since the last time he promised to surprise her. I'll be waiting, she smiled. Then we'll make it a weekend. He wanted to make sure no one distracted him. I agree, she really liked the guy. The guy had money, but he wanted enough for everything. Austin was planning on buying something for Naomi at the jewelry store, so he took all the orders he could get from the cabs. There had been a lull in his associates' orders for 2 weeks now. The guy couldn't figure out what had happened. Then he thought maybe they lay low, so that they would be forgotten a little. And so, on his day off, when he was about to go to his girlfriend's house, his phone rang. Hello, he answered Alex, but he thought about how bad the timing was. Austin, hi, we need you. There was nothing unusual in this request, so the guy didn't make any accents. Where and when? He asked. As usual, at our house in a couple hours, the young man dictated. Okay, I will. The guy himself did not know why he did not refuse. Perhaps he was afraid of them or something else. The car pulled up to the house where John and Alex lived. They were waiting in the driveway as usual. Hi, they approached the car. Hi, Austin answered. The guys sat in the back seat. They were silent for a few minutes. The driver looked at them in the rearview mirror. John was the first to speak. What's to say? He looked surprised. I don't know, you're always asking why we were gone so long, what we were doing and other things. He laughed. Well, where have you been all this time? They were still in the yard. Not your problem, as if the scumbag wanted to get off on someone. I see. Austin squeezed the steering wheel so that the cauldrons turned white. All right, enough talking. Let's go. John waved his hand. Where to? The driver looked at them again. To Kutakinagora. John was obviously in a good mood today. The mountain's address, Austin replied jokingly. Let's go, he called the village. It's far away. Why do you want to go there? The young man behind the wheel didn't understand them. It's your business to drive us. So start the car. They started to get nervous in the back seat. Okay. They drove. It was already dusk outside. The road was through the forest. This village that the young men were talking about was practically 30 kilometers away from the city. It was practically deserted. There were only a few houses left, so it was unclear why they needed to go there. "What, Austin? Do you like driving a car like that?" Alex asked him. "Very much." He didn't look at them anymore, because he might seem suspicious again. "I see." He shook his head, as if he had nothing more to say. "Stop, I have to take a piss," John asked, when they were on the road, which was surrounded by trees on both sides. "Now pulled over and hit the brakes." The driver pulled over. "Okay," opened the doors, and out stepped the guy. He was there for a long time. Then Alex followed him, back to the car already together. "So, let's go?" Austin asked, and looked at them in the mirror. One of the guys pointed his finger, referring to the reflective surface. "Why are you so nervous?" The driver did as he was asked. After that, there was a short silence, and then something terrible began to happen. John threw a lanyard around the driver's neck from behind. "Brother, what are you doing today?" Austin asked Carlo. "Nothing yet. He just got home from work." "Can I ask you for help again, or rather a favor?" The guy looked at him. "Tell me what happened." Carlo was waiting. "Remember, I told you about the girl, so we haven't seen each other for a long time. And I got a date with her tonight." He looked down at the floor. "So just cancel the shift, no problem." He knew he could do that. "That's the thing, I can't." He still couldn't look his brother in the eye. "All right, tell me what to do." He was waiting for instructions. He realized that they were so similar that even his father sometimes confused them. And now to go out in a cab under the guise of his brother, it's a couple of trifles. No one will even realize the switch. "Remember I told you that I have regular customers that I sometimes take somewhere?" he asked him. "So, what, today with them?" It was even easier. No need to go anywhere. Just get in the car and go. "Yes," Austin nodded and handed his brother the keys to his new car. He didn't understand how you could destroy such an expensive car. They might misunderstand, but Austin thought that he would drive his mom's car to Naomi's. There was nothing else to do. "Okay, I'll work in comfort today," smiled Carlo. After that, Austin started explaining what to do and how to do it, talking less, not asking anything. Of course, the young man understood the risk that the police officer might have sketches and recognize the two men. But it was even better. It would end all these incomprehensible machinations. "I've got it all figured out, and I'm ready to go," Carlo said in military style. After that, he saw his brother off, waited for the appointed time, got into the car, and drove to the right address. Carlo waited for the people he had to drive today to come out. And when they came out of the entrance, he just froze for a moment. It was the same guys they'd been missing for so long. "Well, Austin," he hummed and shook his head. After that, the guy texted his coworkers. He pointed out which car, who was in it, and which direction they were going. Carlo was sure he wasn't alone. Yeah, even if he was, he could handle two easily. "What are you looking at?" When he heard those shouts, he thought about his brother, how he'd been riding with them for so long. And then he looked at the steering wheel of the car, so that's where all that money came from. When the car stopped, it was no good. One got out of the car, the cop's side vision followed him, and when the other got out, he quickly clicked on his phone, checked where his backup was. They were a few meters away. You'll know how to ask a lot of questions. With those words, a noose tightened around his neck. But it was not for nothing that Carlo had been trained for so many years and taught to deal with all sorts of unusual situations. The young man turned his head sharply to the right, slipped one hand under the rope, and fumbled for the phone with his other hand. He planted his feet on the panel and managed to move almost to the back seat. Now those who were attacking him were at a disadvantage. "What are you sitting there looking at?" began John nervously, and Alex at this point was simply numb. Carlo was struggling. He realized that every second counted now. He benefited from the temporary confusion of the other guy. He pulled out his gun, jabbed it into John's stomach. Everybody out of the car. The young employee was breathing heavily. We thought you were a normal driver and you didn't know what else to say, and arrested the guy too." By this time, backup had arrived, but both John and Alex were kneeling by the car. "Hey, Austin, or whatever your name is, shall we step back?" nodded John's head to the side. "Why?" the man said dismissively. "Let's talk." He glared at the masked men. "I have nothing to talk to you about." He turned to his men. "Pack up." After that, everyone went to the police station. There they began endless interrogations, where the thugs tried to pin everything on Austin. They still don't realize they're two different people. "He took money from us. He was our accomplice. He saw where we were going and why." John pointed his finger at Carlo. "Is that so?" The investigator looked at him. "No." Carlo shook his head in the negative. "Why does he say that then?" The man didn't understand. "My twin brother worked with them, but he was with them as a cab driver. Maybe he guessed something, but he didn't know exactly. The young man only assumed it. He couldn't be responsible for the other person." "All right, call your brother. Get him here," the investigator asked. "He's on his way," muttered the boy. Austin, of course, had expected any denouement, but not like this. That evening he drove to Naomi's place as he had planned, stopped at a store, bought earrings, then to another that sold flowers. He arrived at the girl's house, and she was overjoyed. "Hello," he pressed her against him. "I've been waiting for you." She didn't hide anything from him. They got into the car and drove to a small restaurant. Today they were alone, because they didn't want to waste time on someone else. "You know, I told my brother about Melina. Do you think she will want to meet him?" asked the guy, laughing at the girl. "How can I tell if I've never seen him?" She didn't understand the question. "And then the first time, who noticed me first?" He asked another question. "Austin, what kind of questions are these?" She was already wrinkling her nose. It was obvious that she was uncomfortable with this conversation where she didn't understand anything. "Look," he held out a picture of two young men, him and his brother. "Wow," she looked at the picture and at the guy. "It happens, really. He is still married, but they have not lived together for a long time." He confessed everything at once, so that no one had any secrets. "Come on, will you get there with your brother? We'll talk about it. We don't have time to waste on them." She stood up and sat down next to Austin, not across from him like before. "Good." He put his arms around her and looked into her eyes for a long time. "Kiss me," the girl asked. "I like you a lot." He did as she asked and then handed her a gift he had been preparing for a very long time. "Was this your surprise?" She looked mesmerized at the jewelry. "Now, yes, but then it was a little different." He kissed her again and again. "Let's go home," she called out to the guy. "Okay." He called for the waiter, settled the bill, and they drove off. When the car was already in the yard, the guy's cell phone rang. Wait, it's his brother calling. Austin, of course, assumed that he would recognize John and Alex, but for something like this, he couldn't even think about it. "I need you right away." Austin didn't have time to say anything. "You arrested them?" he guessed. "Not only that, you were born with your shirt on. Get to the department as soon as you can." He disconnected the phone. Austin stared at one point. He realized that now he could be the one to disrupt his brother's career and his own life. For some reason, the first thing on his mind was his mom. "What are you doing?" Naomi pushed him. "I need to leave right now," he told her. Why?" She made big eyes. "It's the right thing to do." He started kissing her again. "When are you coming over?" The girl was starting to think that she was in a hurry to call them home. That's why he was leaving now. "I don't know, I'll call you." He started the car. "Believe me, the matter is very urgent and serious." Austin drove as fast as this car could. On the way, he changed his mind so many times he could go crazy. First about his mom, then about Carlo. And why hadn't these thoughts crossed his mind before? And he didn't think he was setting up his closest people. "Carlo on here." He dialed his brother when he was outside the ward. "I'll be right out," he said in a stern voice. The young man was sitting in the car, waiting for his brother. He got in the car. "Tell me what happened." Austin was interested. "If it had been you and not me in the car, you'd be lying dead on the forest roadside right now," he said angrily. "You see," Austin didn't know what to say. "I know, all the pilots are going to fly now," the boy said bitterly. "Maybe it'll be all right," the guy behind the wheel hoped. "Be thankful I turned on the recorder." Carlo opened the door. He didn't tell Austin anything. He had to see for himself. The guy walked into the office where three people were sitting, the investigator and John and Alex. He said hello to all of them. "Yeah, long time no see," one of them snapped. "A long time." Carlo followed him into the office. "What?" The two men's eyes widened. "That," Carlo grinned. He didn't know what to expect or what to do. "So, young and interesting, I'm listening to you." The monitor turned on. It showed the faces of the three who were in the car tonight. "Asshole," hissed John. No one else spoke. Everyone was silent. "Of course, you'll be questioned for covering up for the criminals, but the fact that they attack you may mitigate your position." The man at the table spoke. "You know, I'm just a pawn in this game. They hired me as a driver. How could I know what was really going on?" Austin was so ashamed of what he had done. "We'll figure it out." The investigator just shook his head. From that day on, the proceedings began. Since the guys never hid their faces, all those who had suffered at their hands and had gone to the authorities recognized them. There was no point in denying it. They realized it themselves. And then there was a trial, which was not going to pity those scum who sat in the dock. Austin was there, only as a witness. He told everything he knew, saw, and guessed. "Why didn't you consult your brother?" They asked him a question. "I can't answer that question." He lowered his head so as not to see the contemptuous look Carlo was giving him. "Do you realize that they could have killed you?" The next question sounded. Of course, at that moment, Austin turned to look at the people he had been working in the same car with for so long. They could have done it at any moment. Alex's mother was sitting in the audience. She was drenching herself in tears. "Mamulechka, forgive me," one lips told her son from behind bars. The woman turned away. The court handed down a guilty verdict. As everyone who spoke here mostly talked about John's abuse, he got 3 years more, but Alex didn't get away with it either. "Let's go," waited Carlo for his brother outside the courthouse. "Forgive me if you can," he muttered as he walked out. "It's okay," they walked to the car. "I don't know why I did it," the kid said. "Calm down. What were you saying about girls?" Carlo smiled at him. "What are you talking about?" Austin didn't get it. "Well, I have to take your mind off the subject." The young man continued to smile. Austin took his phone out of his pocket, turned the screen to his brother. It said that there were more than 100 missed calls from Naomi and even more messages. "She won't forgive me for this," he bowed his head. "Let's go." Carlo pulled him toward the car. "And call your girlfriends." They got into the car, Carlo driving, and drove to the address Austin had said. "Naomi, hi, I'm sorry for not calling or answering." He started apologizing right away. "You what? It's you, I'm sorry. Where are you now?" worried the girl. "My brother and I are on our way to you." He did not hide it. "And Melina and I are waiting for you at my place," rejoiced Naomi. "We'll be there soon." He hung up. Casey signed the documents, looked at the road Carlo, and spoke in a calm voice. "How are we going to live now?" Austin was tormented by his conscience. "What are you talking about? Nothing happened. If you were closed, I would have been kicked out of the organs. And now everything is fine." In every possible way supported his brother Carlo. They arrived at Naomi's house, got out of the car. The girls saw them through the window, went outside. Of course, Naomi told me that you have a brother, but I did not realize that you are so much alike." Melina addressed the guy. "Hi, you and I haven't met yet. I'm Carlo," he laughed. "Oh, sorry," she blushed and shifted her gaze to the other guy. "And how are we going to tell you two apart?" Naomi was now speaking. She'd seen the guys in the picture, but she'd never thought there was such a resemblance between them. "Let's go," Austin called out to everyone. They were back at the same bar restaurant where they'd met. The first thing they remembered was how they did it. Everyone was laughing again. Carlo could see that his brother was distracted, and he wasn't in as much pain as he had been a few hours ago. "So how was your last urgent case that you couldn't call or text me resolve?" Naomi asked the guys. "You what?" Before Carlo could say anything. "We had to help my mom and I lost my phone." Austin interrupted his brother. "That's a good thing. And then what? You found it?" She didn't understand. "Everything's okay now, right?" He looked into her eyes. Yes, they sat for a while longer, laughing and talking a lot. "Look," Austin pulled back the collar of his sweatshirt. He had a tattoo of a scorpion there. "So what?" Naomi didn't understand. And here, he pulled back his brother's collar. There was nothing there. Melina, did you understand?" laughed the girl. After soulful sit-downs, the guys decided to go home. They invited the girls to visit. "We will definitely come." Melina made eyes at Carlo. "And we'll be waiting." He winked at her. On the way back, Carlo didn't stop talking. He said how beautiful the girl's eyes were, what a good character she had, and many other things. Austin was more silent. He was smiling. They came home at night. Their mother was asleep, so they did not disturb her and went to bed. "Mom, the brides are coming soon," Carlo told her in the morning. "Maybe girlfriends?" She corrected him. "No, brides," the boy insisted. "All right, you'd like to get married quickly and then divorced for a long time," laughed the woman. she was making breakfast. All week, Naomi texted Austin and Melina texted Carlo. They couldn't get enough of each other. And over the weekend, the girls came to visit them. Actually, it's always the boys who visit the girls, Naomi said with feigned resentment. Well, if all goes well, then next time we will definitely come to meet the parents, he promised her. Well, hello, brides, came out of the gate the mother of the boys. What? Why brides? The girls looked at each other. The boys introduced you that way, laughed the boy's mother. Everyone went into the house and settled down in the kitchen. There was so much talk that day, and the story of Naomi and Austin's acquaintance was especially interesting. Mom laughed her ass off. You can tell your grandchildren later, she told them. Then the woman went to the vegetable garden to do her chores, and the young people stayed in the house. Your mother is a worldly woman, Naomi said to Austin and kissed him. Would you marry me? He asked her spontaneously. Yes, without a second's hesitation, she told him. I'm happy, I'll buy a ring, and I'll go to your parents to ask for your hand in marriage. He pressed himself against her. Austin and Melina said she would have married me when I proposed. The couple walked into the room. Austin and Naomi looked at each other and laughed. You won't believe it, we were just talking about the same thing, they said practically in a voice. So, same-day wedding? The brother looked at his brother. We need to propose first and then talk about the wedding, Austin answered him. I don't think that will be a problem. Carlo looked at Melina. Yeah, except that you've only known each other for a week. The young man shook his head. Well, the young people have decided, the mother entered the room, that we will get married on the same day, her son shouted to her. That's young people, she laughed and hugged them. After Austin and Carlo really went to the parents of the girls and asked them for their daughter's hand and heart, and they gave their consent, the wedding was fixed for one day. I wish you nothing but happiness, my darlings. My mother never knew that one brother might not be there anymore. Carlo decided to keep it a secret.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.